like Ike, I like Ike, everybody likes Ike for president.
It was a job he never really wanted. General Dwight David Eisenhower seemed perfectly happy spending his golden years serving as president of Columbia University. Instead, he ended up becoming the 34th president of the United States.
The Republicans and the Democrats had no idea which political party he voted with. The truth was he hadn't voted until after he retired from the Army.
Both parties were trying to get him to run.
Yes, they were. As a matter of fact, Harry Truman volunteered twice to step down in Ike's favor if he'd run as a Democrat, which is pretty astonishing.
He was a 5-star general and a 2-term president.
You like Ike, I like Ike, everybody likes Ike.
A lot of Americans liked Ike, but Susan Eisenhower loved him. Her president was also her grandfather.
That period is long gone, but I think my parents really helped us all by letting us think of him in 2 different ways. What I've done in this book is actually, for the first time in my life, bring it together. And so it was a bit of an emotional experience for me, actually, certainly by the end of the book.
Now, 60 years after he left office, Susan Eisenhower is sharing with the nation the story of one of America's most accomplished yet misunderstood presidents. Honesty, integrity, responsibility in war and in peace. I have to ask, why after 60 years did you decide to write this book? Why wait so long? Because obviously so many books have been written about his administration in the interim. Did you feel that you had something else you wanted to offer nobody else did?
Well, I think there are 2 things. I thought I had something to offer, which is a glimpse into the way Ike thought about things. Maybe that's a little presumptuous of me, but as I did the research, I was so surprised to see so many things that align with the way I was raised. And so I thought when scholars hit a brick wall and couldn't figure out why he did that, often I'd say, oh, I know. It used to be like this in our family, right? So I thought I'd add some of that, tried to make him into a real man, not just a policymaker and the rest of it. And then finally, I thought, because this book is dedicated to my strategy and leadership students at Gettysburg College, I wanted to make sure that rising generations know that we once had a very different kind of leadership in our country, and that they should expect more. They should expect more about everybody who goes into public life, and that this book is really about a different way of viewing maybe many of the same problems we have today.
And I suppose one of the advantages you had over those other biographers is that you had access to some family papers, diaries, letters, and things that they would not have had access to.
Well, it's ironic that of all people, I'm a foreign policy expert. I'd say national security is probably a better way to describe it. But I ended up being the only person who ever wrote a book about Mamie Eisenhower, now a book about Dwight Eisenhower. So I left a lot of the really intimate family stuff for my first book called Mrs. Ike. This one is more about how Eisenhower thought through problems during his wartime leadership and during his presidential leadership. And then I've interspersed it with chapters about who he was as a person, so that I hope by the end of the book, readers will feel like they come away with knowing who he is.
Do you think he's one of the most misunderstood presidents of the modern era? I think a lot of people probably, and I suppose I'm as guilty as the next person, think of that as just sort of a quiet, peaceful time, played a lot of golf, not much was going on. Clearly that wasn't the case. I mean, he brought us NASA, he brought us the interstate highway system, which started right here in St. Louis, so at least we remember him for that. But so much has been forgotten about that time.
I think the reason he was misunderstood is nobody understood his leadership style. It wasn't about him getting attention for himself. It was about him meeting his goals. So he worked a lot behind the scenes.
Do you think that he could win the presidency today, all things being equal?
Well, I think he could win the presidency today if the United States and our allies had just come out of an existential war. But the thing is, we're never going to have wars like that again. He was one of the very first people to understand we were never going to have a war like that again. If you are looking only among sort of an extraordinary character who might come from nowhere almost, I think it would be very hard. And I don't think that what he stood for is out of date. I just think we don't know how to do it anymore. And I hope we all take some time to realize that this country is only going to progress if we move forward together.
Well, perhaps your book will help get that word out there. It is certainly a very powerful story. Susan Eisenhower, thanks so much for the time. It was great to talk to you.
Great to be with you. Thank you so much.